Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shill test, light source, peasants, vassals, reporters, whistleblowers. I'm a useful idiot. Today I want to talk about the Associated Press scandal. So I've said my bits on the so-called IRS scandal and the so-called Benghazi scandal, and now I'm going to talk about the Associated Press scandal. So the heart of it is that the Department of Justice circumvented courts and the legal system and seized 2 months of records of at least 20 different phone lines used by Associated Press reporters. And this includes phone lines for Associated Press in New York, Washington, and Hartford, Connecticut. And also includes the House of Representatives phone gallery, the fax line at the Associated Press office, and encompasses private cell phones and affects about 100 reporters. But of course the big picture about this is it affects 100 reporters, but it also affects thousands of people associated with these reporters, their sources, their contacts, family phone calls, and even phone calls to congressmen in the House of Representatives. So anyway, there's a lot of potential there, and the fact that they've appropriated fax records as well means they're ripe for leaking. So we could end up seeing some interesting leaked faxes come out of this situation should the government choose to smear someone further. And of course the big picture of this is it's a violation of constitutional rights. On the surface, it's a violation of constitutional rights. It's amazing that the government can actually acknowledge that they do this, and they're planning on defending it as a legality, even though they circumvented the courts. And this is a result of, to me, what is a big scandal, which is the fact that we have a shadow justice system now, and it's been created by the National Defense Authorization Act, the Patriot Act, and all these other mechanisms that the government has created, both the Bush and Obama administrations. And they've created this shadow, this parallel legal system, and that's where this kind of issue is going to exist. This is where the Obama administration and the Department of Justice under Eric Holder will get away with violating constitutional rights, because now under our new shadow justice system, it will be legal. And that's one of the unfortunate aspects of this scandal. It will be ruled legal, and all the other similar ongoing targeting of journalists will continue unabated, and all of the intelligence apparatus of the government will continue to be abused. And this has a fine, long history, and that's, of course, what my subscribers and regulars expect from me, to talk about this in the historical context. And, of course, that's what waters down the outrageousness of this new scandal. Sad to say that we live in an era of so many scandals. It's all relative, and this one is relative. But the fact is, this targeting of reporters has a long history. One can go back to the Lincoln administration jailing reporters who spoke out against the war, and then that was duplicated in World War I, the Alien Sedition Act, and other acts under Wilson, where people critical of the war effort could be easily jailed. And then in our modern era, just more of the same as well. So Nixon, of course, targeted his opposition. He targeted anyone who was against the Vietnam War and protesters, and there's plenty of groups to target. And of course, nobody mattered then. It wasn't a big scandal for people that he was targeting these leftist groups, because middle-class America didn't really like these rabble-rousers back then. And interestingly enough, too, Nixon used the same tactic to invoke espionage as far as the release of the Pentagon Papers, as the Obama administration is trying to use now in his defense. And then during the Bush years, of course, he targeted a lot of journalists who were against the Iraq War, although for the most part, especially the likes of Fox News, they were complicit in the Fox War. So there's another thing about journalism one has to consider, that they have their agendas too, and they have their political affiliations, and therefore it all becomes a big clusterfuck anyway. So to single out an event like this once again becomes relative in that context as well. So then we have Reagan, both as governor of California when he targeted 60s protesters and the like, and then when he became president, once again he was notorious for targeting leftist groups and leftist journalism and the so-called press. And then Obama, of course, has lots of precedents. As it turns out, he's been going after Fox News as well, and we also know the Pentagon's been attacking the press, USA Today most notably, and going after specifically reporters at the Occupy protests, and then the whistleblowers going after, who technically speaking are reporters. When you speak of someone like WikiLeaks, who the Obama administration is sparing no expense or time or effort to go after. And so anyway, long tradition of this in the Obama context. Now, as it turns out, we find out he's gone after more whistleblowers than all previous administrations put together, and that's no surprise. The government hates to have their dirty laundry aired, although they certainly don't have any problem airing out everyone else's dirty laundry. And part of this scandal, too, as far as I can tell, is that obviously these phone companies just handed over the records to Eric Holder. So he circumvented the law, he circumvented the courts, but that's all part of the new shadow justice system. But that said, still, the phone companies just handed over these records because all the technological companies and all the phone companies and media all have retroactive immunity now. And that's a result of both the Bush and Obama administrations. That now they can just break what we would normally consider law with impunity because the government has already granted them immunity from prosecution. Should anyone want to go after them for violating constitutional rights of citizens by just handing over the records to the government. And another reason why this is a relative scandal to me is because the fact that we also already know from NSA whistleblowers and other whistleblowers that every single phone call, text, and email in this country, inside this country, is already being recorded by the NSA. So the fact that the Obama administration specifically went after 100 reporters is relative. And there's another good example of why a scandal like this is relative to me, when the real outrage should be that the Obama administration, through the NSA and the security apparatus and police state, is monitoring every single phone call, exit, text, and email inside the United States anyway. And another thing this brings up that's not talked about, part of the scandal, is the fact that we live in an era now where just invoking national security can justify just about anything from the government. And that's a sad state of affairs now, too. All they have to do is bring up that, and all of a sudden, everything that normally would be illegal under our Constitution and our judicial system all of a sudden becomes legal. And so that's a scandal. And then one of the big scandal about this to me is a couple things. One is the fact that media is co-opted as well. They're part of the problem. So we've traditionally had the government going after alternative media, going after bloggers, and going after the internet, and going after alternative media in general. But now they're actually going after corporate press. And that's an interesting change of tactics. And so it's hard for me to sympathize with a corporate press like Associated Press when the guns are turned on them, and then they're outraged, when they've been complicit in the fact that the government's been going after all their competition, and not a word then. And then the other thing is the fact that the government is always used the media, and the media's been happy to comply. So, like I say, it's ironic that they're outraged now when actually they've been complicit in a lot of things that are going on. Fox News, for example, being outraged that they're being targeted now, and yet they were complicit in promoting the Bush and the war agenda during the 8 years of the Bush administration. So the press is always part of this. And Associated Press is a very good example of that. It's a brokerage, clearinghouse, where news is gathered under this umbrella and then sifted through, filtered, and then spread out over the globe and sent to newspapers all over the world. So it's just another form of propaganda. And so that's another reason why some of this outrage is lost on me. And the bottom line, the real irony of all of this for me is, of course, the fact that our government demands utter privacy, and they will prosecute to protect that privacy, and yet everyone else's privacy is up for grabs, and the government violates it on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. But the ultimate irony, the government just can't understand why anybody else would want privacy and rights and protections. So, so there we have it. There's my take, and probably the kind of take that my regulars have come to expect on me on this Associated Press scandal. I just say next. I think there's other stories, other abuses, and other scandals that have far more merit. But that said, let me make it clear that I am disgusted by this. I'm disgusted by the abuses of the state, whether it's the Obama administration or anybody else. I'm certainly disgusted by the use of the Department of Justice and this shadow justice system that we have now. But ultimately, to me, it becomes about the fact that I'm interested in going after those who break the law. I'm interested in abuses of power. I'm interested in airing out the government's dirty laundry, no matter who it is. But unfortunately, these issues, these so-called scandals, and this AP one is another example of that. It's not about the right thing. It's not about everybody truly being outraged and having any principles. It's not really about going after the abuses of the state. It's just one party attacking the other party. And as long as it